YouTube, what's going on? We're going to look at cars. Been a minute, of course, been busy. We're going to look at a lot of cars in this video. I'll list them all down below in the description in case you see something that you want to add to your collection, or see if you have something already that matches what I'm talking about. But a lot of stuff I found. I do have a shipment coming, but you know what? I haven't ordered anything online probably in a long time. I was able to find a lot of things that were on coming out locally. I haven't gotten everything I wanted. I don't think any of us can find everything that we want, but I try to get the castings that are very interesting to me. Of course, we get a lot of commercial vehicles. We get a lot of trucks, but police cars, things like that. I like that. But I found some really cool ones. Auto World has a lot of great stuff coming out. You know, it started, the year kicked off for me when we found the Eldorado cars, the 76 Eldorados, which are really great. And they have the Suburbans, and they got the new body Camaros, the Dodge Stealth. You know, we're going to have the Nova Wagons coming out. So very excited. So we're going to look at some Auto World first, and then we'll get into it. We got Mini GT. Another Mini GT we added to the collection. A whole bunch of Greenlight. A lot of these Greenlight cars are existing castings with new decos, so we're going to look at those. A couple new castings, I think, though. Greenlight we're going to look at, too. So let's get into it. Well, we looked at the red and blue Stealth. This is the white one. This is the one I might have mentioned in the last video that I was really wanted. I love the white. I'm thinking it's a different year. This is a 92. I think the other ones were 91s. Can't remember. But here it is, and we'll look at it against the red. Now we have red, white, and blue. The version B of this car would be the green one, the Hunter Green. So I found this locally, and I was very happy to get it. You know, and funnily, or humorously or whatever, this was the last thing hanging on the peg. None of the other set was there. They didn't have multiples. Sometimes you have multiples. Auto World now, it used to be kind of a peg warmer in general, but not anymore. Even the less desirable cars, they eventually leave, because you only get about 2 cases per store, so there's really not a lot of these anyway. So here's our bar code and the back. They always show the previous series before the one that's out here. This is the one that's current, and this is that. I have not found any of the new 80s square body trucks, so we're going to try to find those. Just like the caddies. I mean, I've been finding a lot of red caddies for some reason, but not the green one. So probably at the resort. I'm kind of thinking about if I really want them or not that bad. I got a lot of Auto World square bodies. I'm not going to have to get all of them. So it's just something I might wait on. I have no idea. Although you gotta go quick. So even the online ones, eventually after the first batch are sold out, it goes to people trying to scalp and all that, and then the prices slowly go up. So that's my piece on that. Let's just look at the car. We kind of went over this car before. We had some comments. Yes, this car is a twin turbo car. It's not the base. The base was a regular 6-cylinder, non-turbo front-wheel drive. The RT car is all-wheel drive, which you can see the drive shaft there. Turbo 6-cylinder stick shift. This is the one that represents more of an accurate design to me. They had this white on white special edition car and the red leather. These cars, the ones we saw before, are good looking, but they have that plain gray, and both of them are the same. Kind of plain looking, but they actually spent the time and two-toned it. Did the black dash with the red seats, black carpet, black door cards, I think. Yeah, so that's more realistic. I think that looks a lot better. Let's see if we can get this hood open. There we go. So there's our transverse mounted 6-cylinder. You can see the intake runners on there, and then cam cover on that side, that bank of the cylinders. Wide six-cylinder, very big V. I think it's almost a 90-degree block. I mean, it was very wide. Let's take a zoom. Good horsepower, over 200, but under 3, I think. I mean, you could turn these cars up, tune them, and things like that. Get a lot of power out of them. That unique spoiler. The lesser cars didn't have this mid spoiler, I don't think. Dual exhaust. This one was bent. You know, it's funny. Auto World takes the time and does the casting and really does the individual tailpipes. That one is kind of bent. I probably can bend that back. I almost kind of want a record of how the car came. It has bent exhaust. You know, you'd see that a lot on real cars. A lot of people would back these cars into stuff, and you'd see these in the day. You know, it wasn't fake tailpipes. They actually had tailpipes, so these would always get bashed up and stuff. You'd always see that around. Big casting mark right there. It's not very pretty. But you could see a lot of the imperfections with the white. I don't think these blue was as bad. I think the paint was thicker. And then the red one, we can see there is actually the best. It's probably because it's so thick. Now, those are the first ones to come out. And then we have the white one. I like this car. It doesn't look as bad. Obviously not blown up to magnification like we are doing it here, but we always like to take a look. So this would be one of 12,040 units. And there we go. Stealth RT. This is a 92. Let's see if it'll zoom. There we go. So, not a bad car. Excuse me. It is springtime here, and it's a little allergy coming through. You can see too. Let's take a little. So blue one's crooked, and I did not drop these cars. That's how they came out of the package. You can see how bad that. Look how bad that rivet is. Just awful. And then the red one seemed to be the best of the bunch, but I'll probably straighten those out. You probably take a little screwdriver and kind of straighten them a little bit. So there we go. It's kind of cool too. I think I'll display them like this. I think that looks kind of cool. So there's our RT stealth car. Very cool. Let's move on. This will probably be an extremely long video. I might have to break this up into sections. I have no idea. All right. We'll put this over here. And we'll move right along. So, another cool Auto World is this 18 Camaro Zl1. This is the top dog. They have a 1LE Zl1, which is even more aggressive than this car. This car still has all the creature comforts with the blown motor. Supercharged motors on Zl1 cars. A lot of horsepower. It's kind of like a quote-unquote ZR1 Corvette for a Camaro. A lot of the stuff, I mean, you can get brake packages, manual transmission, and all the crazy gauges that they have, like, you know, that monitors your G-force and all that nonsense. But they tooled up wheels and tires for this car. And again, this is not like the 5th gen Camaro. This is the 6th gen car. So this is all different. Shares the chassis kind of architecture, suspension, a little bit of that Cadillac. So this car is on a rear-wheel drive Caddy platform too, modified of course for Camaro, but off that platform. I believe ATS shares that, Caddy ATS, which I think was just discontinued. So they are going to make ZL1 1LE. 1LE would be the high performance variant. They also made SS 1LE cars, and 6-cylinder ones, actually LT. But the one that's really great is the normally aspirated, around 4.5 horse, like 450 horse car, 6-speed. The 5th gen 1LE was quite a car. It looked like a ZL1, but it was not a blown motor. So it was kind of a little bit more of like a performance package for suspension and handling, braking, than it was with the full horsepower. And when you're just under 500 but over 400 horse, I mean, the car moves very good. You don't necessarily need the blown engine. I think it was over 500 with the blown. This would be the LT5 or LT4 now. V8 on this car, so this 6th gen Camaro's got a more updated 8-cylinder in it, but the older LS2, LS3, 6.2 liter cars were pretty good. This has the individual tailpipes cast, so it looks good. Rims are supposed to be staggered in real life, but they do not look staggered in this version. The 5th gen Camaro that they did do staggered tires, and if you look back at that video, Auto World only put 3 tires that were the right size, and one of them was the same as the back size. Let's see if we can get the hood open. Yeah, it might not let me in there. Let's see. There it goes. Most of them open fine. Great detail. You know, the only thing about Auto World really is that they don't have separate headlight detail. Everything is metal, but if you look at it the other way, everything's metal, and it's kind of hard to criticize someone that goes like that. You know, they're making all this car with a mold. They're not relying on separate plastic injection pieces like Greenlight does and M2 does. This is all straight up metal, except for some ancillary parts like this spoiler. But the rest of the car is metal. So, and it rolls good. I'd say the ride height is not perfect. It's a little tall. But again, this is 1/64 scale. Now, unlike the error they did with their Challenger, they do have the quarter window in the back there. So, that's good. This is the blue. I think the other one on this series would be red. I'm thinking that's what it is. I can't remember. And then they're going to do Zl1 1LE, 6th gen Camaro. That's coming out next release, which is probably already out. This is Zune. What kind of plate do we have here? So Zl1 on the bottom left. Oh, that's the guy. If you read the stuff, this is actually based on a real car. They use 3D scans or whatever the new technology is. This is actually a real vehicle, and you can see here. There it is. This Tony guy. His car, they used the car for development. So a lot of times these diecast manufacturers, not just Auto World, they'll take real cars and kind of scale them around. That's very common. It helps them build the molds up and stuff. There's always going to be changes when you make a real car to a diecast product. There's always kind of creative licensing done with these cars, like we talked about in other videos. So some things are kind of glossed over in terms of how sharp an edge might be, or how big the wheels are in relation to there's always some little differences, whether it be for making it into production without it, parts breaking off or etc. So, but it's pretty darn close, and with today's manufacturing techniques, these cars can be very detailed and still be cost effective. So here's our Camaro, probably over 4.25. I mean, I think the base motor was like 420s to 450 back in the 5th gen car, so I haven't looked up the new one, but I think it's around 450 or over. Someone can enlighten me on the bottom there in the comments. 2 more. So these are significant castings. These are kind of like the Novas that are coming out. Very excited to have these. A big truck guy, and they made a lot of them. 14,704 in each, or maybe for the whole run. So we're talking about 65 Chevrolet Suburban. This is what Suburbans used to be like, which were 2-door trucks or 3 doors kind of back then. And then they started adding more doors. But so this generation of Chevrolet truck, medium light duty trucks like this, they went to I think 67 was the last year, or 66. Can't remember, something like that. And then went to the other body style afterwards. But this was towards the end of its life. I think this car came out 60s, 59, 60, trying to remember, 61, somewhere in there. This kind of body came out, different grills, of course, every year, but pretty much the same. So this is the same set, release 1 of 2021, and this is version A, and then B is the orange one. Kind of partial to the green turquoise, but orange is kind of cool too. So there's the vehicles that come in the set. And we'll take a look. So let's get these open. It is a shame that they don't have the boxes anymore, but it's okay. I keep the cards, and they can always be put back in here, you know, if I ever have to move the collection around or something like that. So we'll put this down here, and we'll get the other one out. These are interesting. They use the tires. So the Silverado, the C10 castings, the square bodies that they've been making, same wheels or not wheels, but same tire mold, and they do well for these kind of vintage vehicles. It looks kind of modern rubber with those tread design, but they roll pretty good. There's not a lot of hang-ups, a lot of sharp detail. I mean, they're almost the masters of making stuff out of all metal. You know, you'd see a lot of these type of trucks, and this roof panel would be plastic, and then it would be riveted onto like a metal body. The only glaring problem with this is the way they were able to pin the hood down. There's way too much gap there, and I did not drill these open and fix that yet because I wanted to show everybody how they come out of the package. This is a issue with these. They're all like that I've seen. Both of these certainly are the same way. So it's basically, I'm assuming this hood kind of works like most of their hoods. They kind of use the interior and some other pieces to hold it in, and it's okay. I think that if I bent the tabs, you know, you have these little tabs there that go in under the firewall. You can massage those, bend them a little bit without breaking them, and you can get that gap a little tighter. But as you can see, it's a huge gap. It looks pretty good, though, from the front, I'd say. And they even have the delicate Chevrolet script in the grill, which was kind of like a embossed, reliefed in there in the real truck. I think they just tampoed it there, but that's actually kind of sunken in. It's kind of like stamped in there on the real truck. This is a 10 model, so a half ton. This has that fawn or beige interior, same color here. It's like that sand. You could see the bench seat there. You know, they had the post in there like a Matchbox car, which I thought was interesting. A lot of the times, these higher-end manufacturers will eliminate the need for the post going all up to the roof by making a kind of a little bit of a shelf in here in Diecast, and then they'll just rivet it to there. So, you know, like basically how those truck beds are done. So if you look at you know, this one, obviously got a rivet there, but they just kind of put it there. So I thought it was interesting that they took time to do that. I don't understand why they did it. Maybe it was just easier or cheaper to do it that way after they weighed all their options on how to make it. So that's kind of a disappointment. I don't understand. I mean, maybe, and a lot of times, you know, I've seen this once or twice, you know, they'll do a first run like this, and then they get, you know, they're able to redesign it, kind of update the chassis. Hot Wheels does that all the time. They'll take a casting that's been out for decades, kind of clean it up. But this one just came out, and with all the modern techniques, it was interesting why they did that. Maybe it's just the way it needs to be done. Who knows? But they get the look right. I mean, the hood is perfect, or the roof line is awesome. The way they have the windows, it's all the same size. It was, you know, when we look at that Land Rover later, we can also see on that county model how low the windows go. But this one's perfect. So this will have the V8 in it. This casting, they don't show an inline six. A lot of these trucks had inline sixes in them. People really weren't necessarily needing 8 cylinders. Most people got by with the inline six on the half ton, but you could get a V8. And I do believe by 65, you know, these cars, they could have 4-wheel drive. You'd have manual and transmission. I think there might have been an automatic offered on this truck. I mean, it was offered on the pickup, so I'm assuming the Suburban. I didn't look up all the specs on this. This is basically falls in line with what the pickups were doing. It's very close. It has the barn doors, style doors on this. And just to note, again, the casting detail, I love the crispness of the roof line. You can see how it kicks up. It's got the right thinness, and then all the the little reliefs here. You could see the separation for the two-tone, not perfect. But they did tampo in the weather stripping. And again, another piece on these 60s mid-century trucks was this little brow that goes over the windshield. So it's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool. I didn't touch this truck up yet. I didn't really do anything to it. Wheels are fairly straight when you roll it. I mean, it's pretty good. A little bit of wobble, but certainly nothing like Greenlight or Auto World. Or, not Auto World. Greenlight or M2. Excuse me. Alright, so we looked at these. I could spend a lot of time on these. I would say that these are probably most people's. They're going to go to most people collections, especially when people that like the trucks and the square bodies. I was able to find a duplicate of this hanging up, so it was interesting. This was the last thing that was on the peg. So maybe it's not going to be super, hoarded. I don't know. I don't know who wouldn't want a 65 Suburban. I mean, first of all, this thing has never been cast in 1/64 scale. Revell just updated their pickup truck model kit to reflect this. So you can buy this in 1/25 scale plastic kit now. And it's actually, the box art's an orange one like this. So I might build a companion to these. So 65, right? 65, 66. Yeah, 1965 Chevrolet Suburban 10, which was the half ton. Cool, huh? Oh, yeah. The other thing, too. This is when they had those huge trailing arms with the coil springs. They went back to leaf springs. Oh, well, everybody goes back to leaf springs eventually. It's just more complicated this way. But back then, they had these big old... They got these big arms, suspension arms on there. That's so crazy. All right. See, that was accurate, unlike some of what Greenlight's done, where they kind of fictitiously made up leaf springs on a Crown Vic wagon. I thought that was always funny. Okay, next in line. We got through our Auto World, so let's just blaze through some of these Greenlights, and then we can get to the Mini GT, which is awesome. So, let's look at some existing stuff that we've seen before, just in a different livery. Of course, I do like these Vandora Vans. These are cool. Union 76. It's a good livery. I've always liked the 76 stuff. I probably will get a gas station to add to my gas stations. They did do a Union 76 gas station, I believe. So we'll get that down. This is the 87. This body style van. They use these square bodies from the 70s. All the way to, I think this truck went to 94, 95, 95, 96. 96, 97 is when they redid it. So, and if you want to know, I got a 1.5 scale. This thing is rare as hen's teeth, but I'll back this out. So this is the next version. This guy, that's a Brookfield Collector's truck. This is a 97, I believe, or 98. So kind of went to this, kind of bit a big jump, went from these styles to this van. So, and then this van went all the way till they got rid of these vans. So from late 90s to basically till 2020, 2019, 18, something like that. 2015. So they went a long time, but there's not really a lot you can do to these things to change them. You can update them and stuff, but you're still going to have this basic shape. Nowadays, the hot thing is to make vans like this, with the high roof and all that nonsense. But back then, they did this, and when you wanted a high roof, you cut the roof up, put a high roof on it. You wanted a school bus, they cut it down there, made a school bus. You want a utility truck, they cut it back and then make a... box van. So these are kind of pretty cool. They make a cabin chassis, quote unquote, for this. What would happen is the General Motors would build you this van. Usually it's on a 1 ton or up, but they would just cut this like this, have the chassis. They deliver it to whoever's going to put the upfit, even the dealer. They put a sheet of plastic on the back, basically, and it would just get delivered like that with an open cut-off back. So it was kind of neat. But this is pretty good. The only problem with these Greenlight vans is the wheels stick out too much, which I'll talk about on the Crown Vic. I'll show you how that can be fixed. Sits a little too low. I think the tires need to be bigger profile tires. I think the width is okay, but they need to be a little bit taller. When you look at work truck tires, they look more like this. You know, not like that. So, and this is a little out of scale. It's a little tall, but you know what I'm saying. You get that feel. You don't get like this. Looks like more like a car tire on this. So, and the other thing is that the chassis is part of the wheel well. So it looks okay, but there is a gap there. If you look down there, we can zoom in. You know, we're always going to notice the gap that goes around here. Now, they did that because they could make and mold big, huge fender flares for the A-Team van and the custom vans. But when you have a stock van, it's a little funky. This is too big. The opening on this wheel arch is too large. It's not square enough. It almost looks like a 60s car with this huge gap back here. So it's a little bit off. But, you know, it's such a shame because the van, if you were to take this body off this chassis, you know, because the grille is perfect and the width of the van is perfect and the body lines are really good. So it's just kind of let down slightly. Although in general, it's okay. You know, you can see they really tuck those fenders in so they don't stick out that much. It's just that the fact that the rear fender is just doesn't look right. It's just too big. I almost feel like I could take this and just kind of fix it, you know, fill it in with modeler's putty or, you know, plastic and then get it in there, glued it in, and then reshape the arch. But you'd have so much work into that. And when you get 1/64 scale, it's just not worth it, you know, for that kind of level of fixing it. You know, there might be, out of all the vans I buy, there might be one that I just have to do that to, but I wouldn't, you know, want to sit there and correct all these. It would just drive me nuts. So when I look at it out there on the shelf with the other vans, you know, it kind of disappears. I don't get so annoyed by it. But Union 76 is cool. It's got this great graphics on it. And white interior, which is kind of weird, but whatever. So cool. GMC Vandura in 1987. By the 90s, early 90s, they kind of rounded off the grill. They put an airbag steering wheel on it, but that was about it. I think they added anti-lock brakes, fuel injection, airbag, and that was it. You know, the rest of it stayed the same. All right, so next we're going to look at more Greenlight. Let's look at another existing casting. This is a Diplomat. Now, this is not so old. This just came out this year. I love Diplomats. And we can see it as some bitch is real low. You know, they do that, unfortunately. They put them really low. I have a car that I did correct, and I actually found a way to do it without hacking up the chassis. So we'll go into that in a second. But let's look at this Oklahoma car. It's an 85 Dip. Mid-years of the 80s. These cars bid us farewell in 1989 because of all the changes that were coming to the Fed. You know, that cars are always changing the laws, what you can make for the United States and be legal. Well, emissions controls and safety equipment like airbags and all anti-lock brakes. So this car, they never updated to fuel injection. Always had carburetor. Even the civilian ones. By the 89, I think the only motor you could get on the car was a 318. Back in the mid-80s, they had a 360 option with a 4-barrel. They all had electronic ignition systems with electronic choke, kind of. It's like carb. It's like half carb that was mechanical and electronic that sometimes worked. I mean, if you kept it up, it would be fine. That was their infamous lean burn carb. But 3-speed automatic. I don't think I ever had a 4-speed in it. Or that could be wrong, maybe towards the end. But, you know, just old school car. It was cheap. Chrysler was moving away from this type of stuff for the whole of the 80s. They were restructuring. They purchased out AMC by 87. So what happened was they needed to reshuffle everything where it was done. N-body cars. Chrysler stopped producing the N-body after they bought AMC, and actually AMC until 1989, their factories built the M-body, which I thought was kind of interesting. That was a little tidbit there. So this is an Oklahoma car. We have their characteristic paint scheme. They always have this little part here to symbolize this part of the state. They always have this little cutout there that kind of goes with that little angle. They do tampo over the black, so it's not the same shade of white as the rest of the car. As you can see, the ride height is too low, and the separate headlights, while interesting, they always leave flash on it. So now this one's kind of droopy. So you got to kind of pick that out. Got to fix the headlights. But separate bumpers, gumball head or light. I think Oklahoma's pretty straight. You know, Tampa works good, but when they paint white, it's always ghosted. You could see the ghosting there. So that's kind of annoying. But there you go. In this car, let's see if we can find the serial number. Let's see. There it is. This is a decent serial number. What does it say? 1481. I thought it said 141. Oh, there it is. So what I do when we have these Diplomat cars is, and I get, depends on which one I really like a lot. So I like the NYPD car. As you can see, I have corrected the ride height. Now, this car, the tires will touch the top of the wheel well, but they won't be sunk in. And that's really what the car should look like. All I had to do was, of course, simply drill out the base, just like we do on our Hot Wheels, take the chassis off. And what I did was on these posts, there's a shoulder on the post. Now, I can't do this because I glued it back down, but what I do is I make a ring of plastic, a certain thickness. You can buy sheets of plastic. I find the thickness that works to where the chassis is just raised enough where the wheels are in the correct position along the body. And you can see right here how it's flush. See that? And then on Greenlight's cars, it goes into a little bit. So you can see I didn't raise it by much. Talking about a millimeter, whatever. But that's all the difference in the world. So now we have a car that looks correct versus one that looks like, it got jumped, basically, and collapsed its suspension. And they're all like that. If we look at this one, because it's not black, we can actually kind of see it a little bit better. I left this one alone. So it's a real shame because the casting is perfect. But, this is how the car needs to sit, not like this. Hopefully they could fix that. All they need to do is, if they just raise the shoulder, so on the post where the rivet goes, yes, this chassis plate sits on this post and this post. And there's a shoulder. So if they just were to raise the shoulder, the chassis would sit in the correct spot. They wouldn't have to do anything about re-drilling the holes here or making this different, whatever. They just have to raise the chassis slightly. So there's my 2 cents, but I love Diplomats. I'll get them all. I think this might be the one casting that I will probably get most of them, if not all of them. So we have some exciting civilian decos. Even though they're supposed to be quote-unquote police cars, there's a Beverly Hills Cop. So they got the brown Diplomat or Grand Fury with the soft top on it, like the vinyl top. And they also have the Greatest American Hero. His handler, he has a yellow Diplomat or Grand Fury. I can't remember which, but they're the same, basically. So those two are coming in civilian-type deco. So I thought that was pretty cool. So we'll get to look at those when they come out. And they'll have the Chrysler wire wheel covers instead of the dog dishes that we've been seeing so far. So that'll be cool. Although we did see full wheel covers on our... where did it go? Where are they? This one. The 18 one. Which I haven't raised up. So this car will look a lot better when I raise it. But we have these wheel covers. But we are going to get the wire ones, which were very common on those civilian type vehicles. Okay, so we're going to look at another cool casting. So this is my first fastback of the early 80s Fox body. We have notchback cars that we bought. We also have the early 79 pace car that was a fastback, but it had the different front end. So this is the first one. This is an 80 Ford Mustang. This is when they kind of changed it, I believe. Yeah, 79. They had that specific kind of chunky look to it. This one actually has a smoother 4i front end on it. So this is Vintage Ad Series 4. Vintage Ad Series, very favorite of mine. I used to love looking at ads of cars, and I just like that they're doing the same car now that you can buy as a diecast. So there's our collection of vehicles, and then again, this on the back. Just remember, you could take this piece of cardboard out and cut this out so you can make these. If you're so inclined to. You know, if you have a very, very favorite car, you know, if you get a couple of these, you could take them out and then put it behind the car that you're showcasing. If you have that much space on your shelf, you know, it just depends. You don't get it. Or if you had the car. Oh, I bought a Mustang 1980. Well, now you have a commemorative. It might not have been this color. So, TRX wheels, tri-stars, tri-spokes. We have our separate taillights, which are plastic. Of course, a double-edged sword. We know that this one came in okay, but this one had flashing on it, so it's crooked. So, you know, it's good and it's bad. Now, if they would just give us the cars completely on apart and in trees, you can imagine we can make these look great. We can paint them ourselves. Look at all these. So they painted the Tampa. Yes, it's supposed to be black right here, but look at that. So it's all white in there, so it looks awful. So this car really needs to be disassembled and kind of touched up, to my effect. They have the older school 70s, 80s Ford emblem, Mustang emblem with the red, white, and blue. So that was cool. Tampa 2 places. I think this either said Mustang or Ford, and this one said Mustang on it. I think this one said Ford up there. Let's see if it'll come out. Yeah, that's the Ford one. There it goes. And I think that might have said Mustang on the grill. This is a separate plastic insert. You know, if this was Auto World, this would have been all metal. But with plastic, you can get a little bit finer detail. The thing is, when you paint plastic, and it's supposed to be the same color, it never looks the same. But it is a good casting. It has Greenlight's very weird issue where they put these bases on the car, and it's crooked. So one side, and I think it's, yeah, so the passenger side is taller than the driver's side. Driver's side lists. The car is basically sitting like this. The Caprices all do it. Every single Caprice I bought done it, so I've taken the Caprice chassis off and raised it. Actually, I was able to fix the ride height issue with the Caprice in the same way I did with the M-Body Diplomat Grand Fury, which was to raise the chassis a little bit. So, again, this one needs to be drilled out and fixed. It lists to one side. It's such a shame because the car, the casting is great. Non-functional hood scoop, I think, on these early cars. It had a twin snorkel 5-liter. They had a smaller 5 V8. I think it was a 4.9 or 4.8 just for a year or two, but went back to a 5-liter. And then it went from a 4-barrel carb to a multi-port fuel injection car until the Fox body went away after 93. Bucket seat, 5-speed manual, I believe at this point, or it might have been still the 4-speed. They carried the 4-speed all the way till they got the T6 or T5 5-speed in the car, which was a decent unit. It couldn't take a lot of power, but it took a much. You can do a couple upgrades to your car and still have the transmission hold up. 8-inch rear ends on the back. Was 99 inches on these cars. So they were getting a little bit cheaper, but you know, this platform shared everything. So Mercury Zephyr, Ford Fairmount, a bunch of Lincolns. So we had the Lincoln Mark 6 or 7 was on the Fox body. The Lincoln Continental at one point was on a Fox body. So it was all over the place. You know, Ford got their money off this car real good. I had a station wagon basically on this thing. 2-door sedans, all that stuff. So there's our Ford. I think that looks good with the white with the orange stripe. That is very 80s. I think that looks pretty good. So our next car, new casting from Greenlight. This is going to be, they're entering into the military stuff. They are announced. Greenlight has announced they're going to do 1/64 scale military vehicles. They're kicking it off with doing the venerable Willy's Jeep, which throws service all over the world. This is a 42 model. We'll look at this. They kind of rehashed a couple of things, namely the wheels and tires. This was on the Nissan Patrol and other small 4-wheel drives. So they kind of redid that. It's not as detailed wheel as the one from Johnny Lightning, where it's kind of like that military style wheel. As you could see, the Jeep wheel would kind of look like this, but it didn't. So it's okay. I would say the best thing about this Greenlight is the way it looks. The body's amazing. The windshield is great. If we compare this to our main competitor right now for the newer, this is a bigger scale still. So this is M2. And this is Greenlight. I think Greenlight did an amazing job. You could see, though, look at M2's wheels and tires. This is an accurate wheel and tire. It might be a little bit big, but you can see how nice the rubber is. It's funny how M2 did such a good job. I mean, it's straight and everything, but yeah, the tire, that's really what the military tires look like. Greenlight's kind of close, but not all the way there. But they have a little bit finer casting quality, I think. So I think Greenlight gets a win. It does have separate shovel, pickaxe, and all that. Or you can see kind of like they kind of took the easy way out with M2. But it's cool. It's supposed to be the MASH one, so this is the Hollywood series. But I must say, you don't have to think it's in the Korean War. I mean, it could be World War II. So it's pretty cool. No shifter. They had a shifter in here, I think. Yeah. That's weird. And I didn't knock it off either. I just didn't put one in there. Maybe it's an electric vehicle now. But the windshield is done really good, and it's nice and thin. So I like this car, and it rolls nicely. So and it's the size. I mean, look at this. It's tiny. And it really was tiny. I mean, it was only a 4-person. It's a quarter-ton truck, I think, it was supposed to be carrying. So, a little 4-cylinder flathead motor in it, 4-wheel drive, high and low, transfer case, all that stuff. I think top speed was like 40, 50 mile an hour on this thing. It really wasn't that fast. But it's pretty cool. Separate, so metal base plate, but the chassis is plastic, so that's kind of interesting. So the whole chassis is one piece, and you can see, look at M2's version. So M2 is kind of cool because it's all metal, but they don't have the same fidelity. Usually, Auto World does pretty good, or M2 does pretty good chassis versus Greenlight, but this time Greenlight really went all over the place. I think they had flexibility by using plastic for it, so. Leaf spring. It's all leaf spring. All leaf spring. There's our little Jeep. And here is the... Excuse me, my allergies. I'm sorry. Pardon me. Not much. And they never really tell you what Hollywood series this is. Oh, yeah, it is. There it goes. I think, what am I thinking about? Like the 18 maybe? Maybe it's that one. So it's Series 30. Man, they're just trucking with these releases. It's incredible how much stuff they do. I guess once they tool up the vehicle, I mean, they can find as many things that use that vehicle as possible. Whether it be TV show, movie, or some sort of, municipality. Okay, a couple more. We will get to M2 a little later, I think. We're going to do just some Greenlight and Mini GT and Auto World today. I think M2 could last because I got a couple of transporters we're going to look at. So this is the black LTD. This is really cool. These are already kind of sold out. I looked at these a long time. They were coming out. We got the beige one, the X-Files one. This is Hobby Shop Series 10, so it's coming. It's funny that it's only Series 10, though. You'd think it'd be Series 20. So this one, I corrected the wheels. If you get the standard wheel and tire on this, they stick out like a lot. And what you do is you pop these off, and the best way to do that I found was using a needle nose pliers. You get it behind the tire there and just lever it off. Now, to get the other one off, what you do is you put the whole assembly. This one I've replaced the axles. They don't have the nubs on them, but you'd have this, and they don't come off this way. Well, to prevent damage, vise, if you have a vise or a vice grips, you'll lock down on the axle, and then the same thing. You're just gonna take your needle nose, put it on here, and lever it off like this. So this will be locked in where my fingers are pinching it, and then it'll just pop right off. That way you don't really ruin anything. And if you do it in the right angle, these Greenlight wheels are pretty tough. You just have to be careful on how you pry on them. So what I did was I just flushed out the post. So this post sticks out a lot on the end. I just flushed it off. And now, when we put it together, you can see some glues on it, but I left it loose. I usually super glue this so it doesn't fall off, but now we have a correct looking Crown Vic. So this is what is this year? 87. So by 88, they had a more rounded front end. So this is last year. I think, yeah, 87, you still get a small block with the fuel injection. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. And this is supposed to be an LTD, but this looks like a police car to me. So black, I got 3 of these. Actually, one of them I opened up. One of them has a really extremely low production number. So I'm very excited about that. I think it was like 1 or 2 or 3 or something, 6, something like that. So single digit. So I'm very excited. This one's 4484. So, but yeah, that pretty simple. I've seen some of these where this part here is all chrome. They actually, when they produced it, this part didn't get painted black. So I've seen these where the whole front end is chrome, which is wrong. What they do is they chrome that whole thing and then they paint over it, which is kind of smart. You know, then you're not sitting there making individual pieces to do their headlight bezels and all that. But the other thing is, if you make this a pocket car, like I've done a couple times, the paint wears off. So you gotta have either a car that's mint on card if you're playing with these things, or you're gonna have to keep painting this. My beige one that I've tuned up, I took the markings off because this was an X-Files car. Again, I have the same issue. That beige is just falling right off there. So now this car looks like it's been around the block a couple of times. I do like this though. It's pretty cool. I mean, the last time we had a square body Crown Victoria was Matchbox, and that car was kind of good, but it wasn't perfect. So it's nice to have a 1/64 scale Crown Vic. Very, very nice. You get your LTD Crown Victoria back there and your blue oval. So, and again, separate taillights, but they're crooked. So I mean, it's not great. You'd have to go back there, take the car apart, get at it from the backside. You don't want to pry from the front because you'll mar it too much. So you got to really kind of push it from the back and then get it out of there. Sometimes if it won't come out, you kind of heat it up with a hair dryer, not a heat gun, because you'd melt it. And that helps up loosen it too. Again, this one had the chrome applied to the window as well as the window frame, which I don't like that much. This car doesn't have that, and you can see it looks a lot cleaner. So I prefer that style. So Greenlight, if you're listening, stop doing that. You're doing it to every car. Most of them half and half. I mean, the Matador has that problem, all that stuff. All right, next. Crown Vic's kind of cool. Let's look at this car. This is really cool. It's a 78 Matador Barcelona package. Look at this thing. I wanted this because it also came with the separate wheels and tires. I can use these full wheel covers on a lot of cars. But this is how this car looked. They were trying to get as many units out as possible. AMC had no money whatsoever, so all they could do was kind of throw crap at an existing vehicle like this. I mean, this is a car that's been in production since the 60s, basically with minor changes. So it went from, and if you can't remember AMC, this is their full-size car, basically. And their full-size luxury car. Again, this is Hobby Shop Series 10. So same thing that the Crown Vic comes in. Older one, which is a little bit more better looking, I'd say, to my eye. You know, we've seen this one. And they went to this one. This is pretty funny, crazy front end. So mid-70s car. But this package was supposed to be high trim level, leather, all that, two-tone. They did the two-tone wheel covers. And it is cool looking. I think you could still get the 8-cylinder. I think it was a 360. I don't think you could do the 401 in 78, but I can't remember. It could have had it. I think it says Matador X. The other thing, too, is they went to the later style AMC insignia on the grill, or on the the front there on the hood. I think that looks amazing. So they blackwash the grill. I mean, this car is actually pretty good. What I had to do though was the tires did rub up on the wheel wells up here, and that is because they were not. There was a lot of flashing on this tire. It had a big ridge on it. So what I did was I took them off and sanded it down to a proper ride level, and now there is no rubbing whatsoever. As you can see, the side of this vehicle is the same as this vehicle, right? Because that is true. All they changed was the front and rear decks. See that? Same car. Then that is called getting your money's worth on a car that was probably from 67, 68. And it went all the way to 79, 78, something like that. So they got their money's out of it. Very cool. Very cool. Separate bumper. See, again, the feds made that like that. They had to put these bumpers on so I could hit it. You could hit a car about 5 mile an hour under and not really do frame damage, basically. I mean, you could damage it, but you couldn't. You want to total the car, make it undrivable, things like that. But look how much cleaner it was when you didn't have to have a big bumper. See, cars went back to this because all the bumper, there's no bumper. You don't need a bumper. The whole car up here has to just break away. And now they can make plastic bumpers and have them smooth like this nowadays. Back then, they kind of went with this. So basically, from the mid-70s all the way to the early 90s, they had bumpers, pretty much, on a lot of cars. Okay, so we looked at Matador. Last two. Let's look at this car. Mini GT. USA exclusive. All they did do a international version. It just doesn't come in the clamshell, basically. It just comes in the box with cellophane. So I did get the USA version just because it probably has a lower production number. I don't know. This is the Land Rover Defender 110 County four-wheel drive truck. This is a left-hand drive still. I was thinking it might have been a right-hand drive, but it's not, so I'm kind of happy about that. I really don't like left-hand drive diecast, if I can help it, unless it's one that's only comes in left-hand drive. So here we go. We got the graphics. This would have been a late 80s, early 90s type vehicle. Defender 110, then it went away. They sold it in North America a year or two. This car actually got by. In the 90s, we could get it here in North America for the most of the time. It was sold overseas. This vehicle, 4-cylinder gas, 4-cylinder diesel, and a petrol gasoline V8s, which was derived from the Rover 3.5, which was a car that went all the way back to the Buick Nailhead that they licensed in the late 50s, 60s, something like that. So, kind of interesting. The only issue I have with these cars, unfortunately, is the windows are too big. The belt line here is too low. This window needs to be up around here. It's not this big on the real car. Especially, you can see it on the driver's door how large that looks. So really the only problem, and it's funny because the windshield is looking okay and everything else is, I just don't understand why they dropped that door down so much. But the rest of the car is perfect. They have the fender flares, the spare tire, and the graphics. I just love the graphics. They do make a Red Bull one and some other stuff, but this one's amazing. Rubber mirrors. This one's a little crooked. Headlights and metal chassis. So this is great. And it's screw, so you can take it apart and do things to it if you need to. So I just love it. Rolls perfect. It's got the metal mud flaps, which don't move. And it's a limited edition. So I'm very happy to have this in the collection. This is a car that looks good on the layout. And I'm just hoping that they make more of them. Excuse me. Woo. I tell you, that pollen really gets to you. Okay. Next. Let's look at... have we seen these before? I mean... They don't have much on here. This is a MiJo that brought it in. It's under a batch. These are probably about $10 to $15 before shipping, just depending on who wants to get you. So, but they're cool. All right, last vehicle is a very big one. I wanted this one. This is probably one of Greenlight's first castings in their catalogs of trucks. The Condor 2. Independent RV manufacturer, but it used Ford parts. So this is a Ford medium heavy-duty chassis with a Ford gasoline 8-cylinder. They were automatic transmission vehicles. I don't think you can get a stick in it. This is luxury. This is like basically a luxury vehicle RV. Highly appointed. A lot of cool features. 2011 is our serial number. And it's just a cool casting. Really, really cool. It's the first Condor I've gotten. The other one was a red, white, and blue one. I haven't gotten that. And there's like a white and orange one. It's too ugly. But I did like this. And I love how the Condor in the back is reliefed. So it has a... I don't know if we can get this on camera. Yeah, you can kind of see it there. See how it's raised letters? I thought that was kind of cool. So separate bumpers, taillights... Interior is actually decent. There is some brown paint that kind of came on the beige. You can see it right there. Some right there that's kind of transferred over. So a little bit of cleanup needs to be done. I might try alcohol first and then acetone next because I think the base layer is the cream, so I can get away with getting the brown off. I just can't get the cream off, so gotta be careful with that. Probably would take the screws and undo the vehicle. It actually rolls decent. I might have to fix the tires a little bit, but not much. It's not like some of them I bought. Separate windshield wipers, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, Ford chassis, believe it or not. Pretty neat. By this time, you can get air conditioning and plumbing and just all sorts of stuff on these vehicles. Pretty cool. And late 60s, 70s is kind of when these things were kind of coming out in force. But, you know, instead of you having to tow a trailer, they were starting to make self-contained, self-driving motorhomes. Or not self-driving, but all in one. Actually, this you could tow with it. So you could put like a boat or something else in the back. Maybe a sports car or something. So, very cool. Let's see what the plate says. I just love how it has the raised letters. I think that's cool. They spent the time to do that. You could see there's another brown stain right there. It almost looks kind of realistic, like it was been driving around. There's some vents for something, probably like a heater or something like that. Pretty cool. I like this. Can we see inside maybe? Let's see if we can get in there. Not much to see. Oh, it does have a full detail interior. Yeah, not much. Not much. You can kind of see the steering wheel. Well, I think that's it. We went long on this one, but well, had a lot of cars come in. We do have a shipment coming in, so we're going to look at that. I do have some 1/18 scale we'll look at, so we'll get to that soon. But and of course we got M2. That's always good to see. But we saw a lot of cars today. It has been a while, so thanks for watching some videos while I was making a new one. And appreciate all your nice comments and your new subscriptions. Hopefully we break 5,000 soon. That would be great. And it's all for everybody to watch. We love looking at cars, and that's what this channel is all about. So hope you enjoyed it. More to come till next time. I'll be able to, once I get these on film, I'll be able to organize them and clear out the table and put more cars on. So these kind of help me archive some stuff too, so I can put stuff away and move on to the next batch. But yeah, although some cars are always going to be out, because there's just some of my favorites that just don't get put up. So we'll get to that too. You know, maybe if we get some more room, I might open up the view and we can see more of the collection as it is when we're looking at it in the room. But yeah, looked at some cars today. Thanks again for watching. Appreciate all your comments and subscriptions. Till next time.